This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
The Bison are off to another great start in the FCS playoffs, handling San Diego in the second round last week, but now it is a rematch of the game played back in the middle of October with South Dakota State making their second trip to the Fargo Dome this year, the last time a stunning win and possession of the Dakota marker. This time the Bison are looking for something else, redemption, and to continue on their path to their sixth straight national championship. Hello and welcome to this quarterfinal edition of the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. I am Alex Egan alongside Ryan Gellner. We have an exciting show lined up for you today as we get set for the Bison and the Jacks round two. Quickly, your thoughts as we get into this game. Kind of a cut and dry game. We are going to see a good football game
I think
today.
we all know what we're going to get in this football game. The Bison have lost 6 times in 6 years. They're 5-0 against teams that have beat them once already. The next time they play them, 5 straight wins. NDSU knows what this game is about. There's a chip on the shoulder, and South Dakota State, they haven't won in Fargo. Well, obviously, prior to the last time they won in Fargo was 1962. They haven't won 2 games in Fargo since 1962. And I think the Bison know what's in store.
I think we will. We saw South Dakota State come out, put all their cards on the table the last time that these two played. It was a very, very interesting game, a game that I don't think a lot of people saw what South Dakota State was doing on offense. I don't think a lot of people saw that one coming, save for the folks in that South Dakota State locker room.
Since then, they've had an assistant coach complain on Twitter about sharing a conference title. They've had a school turning in North Dakota State to the NCAA, and they've had a player, the freshman of the year, Christian Rosenblum, twist the ankle of Bruce Anderson. You think the Bison don't know that that's going on? You think the Bison aren't fired up about those facts? There's just so many outside forces that are coming into play. It's a perfect storm if you're North Dakota State.
And keep in mind, this is a natural rivalry as well. It's come to a natural rivalry. The schools are, only 150 miles apart. The fans travel well. Both teams are very well supported. NDSU fans make the trip down to Brookings, no problem. Brookings fans will make the trip up to Fargo, no problem. It has become a very good rivalry game, and it just gets amped up that much more now that we're in the quarterfinals.
We've got Levon Perry coming on the show a little bit later. Let's ask him if this is a rivalry and if some of that outside stuff plays in to the football game.
Excited to hear from Levon Perry. Also, Tony Satter will be joining us as well. But let's take a look. Let's take a look at the bracket right now. Last night's game, as you see, North Dakota State hosting South Dakota State. The game will kick off in just under an hour over on ESPN. We'll stay with you up until 11 a.m., so don't go anywhere just yet. ESPN's coverage of the game will begin at 11. Last night, holy cow, James Madison.
Sam Houston is punching on that reset button on the PlayStation right now. You know how you just unplug the PlayStation and try to start the game over?
Yeah.
It was 48-0 at halftime. Sam Houston State, some people said, should have been the #1 seed based upon what they did in the regular season. Sam Houston State, you shouldn't be the #1 seed.
I think they proved that very well last night. We'll take a look at more of the bracket still a little bit later to come on. But it is a little cold outside. I don't know if you noticed. For our folks out west, it's a little chillier than it is here in Fargo. And the brave Mike Morkin has ventured into the tailgate lot as he brings us our first tailgate report. Hey, Mike.
Okay, thanks, everybody. It's 6 below outside, and yeah, there are fewer tailgaters here this morning, but even the hardiest are out and about and enjoying the game. You'll see that folks have kind of collected themselves in the areas where it's got a little bit of heat, but yeah, we're out here, and Charlie, I know we've chatted before, and it looks like breakfast here for the Bison. What do you got cooking today?
Absolutely. So we've got some breakfast burritos, some homemade breakfast sandwiches, some deer sausage, little egg bake in the crock pot back there, a little bit of everything today.
How did you have to adjust for the conditions today?
We added a couple more heaters and a couple extra layers of clothes, and we're good to go.
And it looks like a lot of the folks are kind of like in that cave mode,
there's a lot more people hanging out back by the heaters than out by the lights, but that's okay.
And the spirit is just as strong as ever?
Oh, every day. It doesn't matter the weather. Everybody's here, ready to have a good time.
All right, thanks so much. Hey, folks. Hey. Yeah, it's cold out here, but the spirit is high, and so is the excitement for today's football game. Yeah, Go Bison. Back to you in the studio.
Save your voices.
A lot of fun.
Save your voices.
Spirit or spirits? Do you say spirit or spirits?
Little of both.
Yeah,
Mike's mom didn't tell him to put a hat on.
Just cover the ears, Mike.
Next-
That's all you got to do.
We have another report from Mike
Yeah,
coming,
well,
right?
you know, I'm
Put
hoping
your hat on,
I'm hoping Mike has a hat. He's found a hat.
Goodness.
All right, we're going to step aside. We come back. Let's take another look at that bracket. Plus, we still have so much more to come here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. The brave tailgaters out in the Fargo Dome. It is frosty, below 0 temps this morning when Bison Nation makes their way inside. They will see the normal pregame video introduction for the Bison as the NCAA reversed their initial course of doing away with it. So no fear, the tunnel walk will look normal this week. These guys are
that is
crazy.
not normal.
No, this is not normal. Oh, no, gentlemen.
Go back to South Dakota.
I think they're Bison fans, but boy.
You didn't have to rat them out.
Boy, my goodness. All right, welcome back inside the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. Let's take a look at that bracket. We showed you the top half of what NDSU and SDSU are playing for, the right to play James Madison in the next round. James Madison putting a walloping on Sam Houston State. We're not going to talk too much about that game anymore because really there's not much
for itself.
to talk about. That's correct, yeah. And so here's the bottom half of the bracket. Youngstown State still in this thing. Bo Pelini's got the boys playing well. 78 points in their 2 playoff games, a 38 performance and a 40-point performance over Jacksonville State last week in the second round. Wofford hanging in there. Wofford's only given up
They can play defense.
17 points in the first 2 games. So that's an impressive game. And then Richmond, of course, with their come from behind over North Dakota last week, taking on Eastern Washington. That game at 3 o'clock in Cheney, Washington.
There's snow on the ground in Cheney, and that's the one thing that can limit Eastern Washington's offense is weather. So that'll be something to pay attention to. Defense in that first game, and then on the bottom side of your screen, pay attention to the weather, because if Eastern Washington gets beat or gets a game, it'll be because of the weather limiting their passing game.
I think we saw the weather playing a big factor last night in James Madison and Sam Houston State. It was cold. Sam Houston State could never really get any momentum going on offense because they couldn't get their passing game
They didn't
going.
want to be there.
And that they didn't. They really didn't. It was, I mean, if you watched that game, you saw that James Madison is a force to be reckoned with in these playoffs. They were playing really well. Their special teams is really good. They had a punt return for a touchdown. They had a punt block returned for a touchdown. It's an impressive-looking team, the Dukes are.
You start to see the conferences shake out right now, don't you? You start to see what the regular season means. Sam Houston State rolls through the regular season last year, gets crushed in the quarterfinals. Sam Houston State rolls through the regular season this year, putting 60 up on everybody, then they get crushed. It is what the conference is.
It is what it is. Well said.
They are who we thought they were.
All right, Denny Green, a shout-out to the late, great Denny Green. We're going to step aside. When we come back, let's hear from SDSU head coach John Stiegelmeier. Beth Hool catching up with him. Plus, we will break down the Jacks. Not much to break down. We've seen them before, but we'll break them down anyways. That's still to come here on the pregame show. The Jacks are in the building. A good look at head coach John Stiegelmeier. The last time his team left the Fargo Dome, it was with the Dakota Marker. This is about an hour ago. We saw him there walking the sidelines of the Dome. The marker is not up for grabs this week.
Oh, there's something a little more important than a marker.
Yeah, national title is on the line. Welcome back to the show. There's Easton Stick getting ready for this as well. Let's go back out to the Dome and check in with Beth Hool, who is standing by with Jacks head coach John Stiegelmeier. Beth?
All right, Coach, it's like the Olympics here. Every 2 years you get to see the Bison in the playoffs. What's this one like preparing for once again?
Well, it's a unique feeling. We beat them last time, so it's a little different approach. I think it really takes away a little bit from the tournament feeling when you play the same team, but ideally we'd have faced them sometime and they'd have faced us, so we're excited to be here.
Last time out, you're right, you beat them here at the Fargo Dome. You showed a lot of things that NDSU wasn't expecting. How much can you expect that to work for you this this week when you've played so much football now?
Well, they obviously took last time's game, and we took our game with them, and you adjust. It's a chess game, and there'll be totally different approaches from both sides. We're just excited to be here and have an opportunity to move on.
We've talked so much about the confidence in your guys in games against the Bison in the past. They have to be confident now after coming in here and winning. How much can that help you this week out here?
Well, I think confidence is huge. You come in here with a positive thought in your mind, and North Dakota State has a different confidence. They've won 5 national championships, so there's an expectation. So I think we come at it a little differently, but both are confident.
Thanks so much for joining us. Best of luck out there today, Coach. Guys.
All right, thank you, Beth, and thank you, Coach, for taking some time talking with us as we get set for this one. Let's take a look at the stats of the quarterback that seemingly was the difference maker last time against NDSU in the regular season. Taryn Christian, sophomore, 6'2", 215 pounds out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He's got 3,500 passing yards, which is impressive. His completion percentage is in that 60% range. That's where you'd like to see it if you're a head coach. The interesting number is the touchdown number. Coming into the game against NDSU, Taryn Christian had 20 touchdowns thrown, and now 6 games later, he's only got 30 touchdown passes. He had 2 in the game against NDSU, so the 6 games following, Taryn Christian has only thrown 8 touchdown passes.
That is interesting. He ran for 141 yards against NDSU in October. This kid is good. He's going to hold 8 individual season records at South Dakota State. Those are touchdown passes, passing yards in a season, passing yards in a game, total offense in a game, completion and attempts in a season, and passing yards per game. This kid is going to hold all sorts of records by the time he is done. He's playing phenomenal. Is NDSU able to keep him in the pocket? I'd let him throw. I would let him throw all day on me, keep him in the pocket, make him uncomfortable, see if we can get him to throw off that back foot a couple times.
I like what you say about I would let him throw, and we'll talk about reasons why you shouldn't let him throw here in just a bit. But to point it out,
there are reasons.
He's got 351 rushing yards, and 141 of those came against the Bison. Just 210 in the rest of the games this season.
Extending plays.
Yeah, he did a really good job of beating the Bison with his feet. Now, you say, I would let him throw. Exhibit A, why you shouldn't let him throw. Dallas Goddard, the tight end, the junior, 6'4", 250 pounds. This kid is huge. 86 catches on the year. He's got over 1,000 yards receiving and 11 receiving touchdowns. He's averaging over 100 yards a game. He also has a rushing touchdown in there as well.
He was the tight end of the year last year in the conference. Get this, with 26 passes caught. You just told me he's caught 86 passes. He was the tight end of the year last year, and he only caught 26 passes. He's got 60 more this year. And you're right, he looks like a defensive end. He runs like a wide receiver. He has such a big catch radius at 6'5". The best part of him, and as a Bison fan, that's hard, but the best part of him, played at small school in South Dakota, the smallest class they had, and then walked on to the Jacks. And he's the best in the country.
He was moments away from going to Northern State there in Aberdeen.
He's the best in the country at this level.
He is fantastic.
So don't throw it to him.
Yeah, okay, so we don't throw it to Dallas Goddard, who is, I talked with a few of the NDSU players, and they normally don't compliment other players, the player that I talked to at least, and he said, this guy is the real deal. This dude is big. He is a big cat to bring down. So he looks big, and he is big when they're trying to bring him down.
The NFL can't call soon enough.
No, they cannot.
Get him in the NFL. Let him be a star there.
Get him out of South Dakota State.
Yeah. He will be.
That's for sure. Kind of that Gronk-esque tight end. Okay, so let's not throw it to Dallas Goddard. Let's go to Exhibit B of why we shouldn't let Taryn Christian throw the football, and that is all-world Jake Winicky, the junior out of Maple Grove, Minnesota. He's also 6'4" and has some size to him, and his catch radius is huge, also up over 1,000 yards receiving. He's got less catches than Goddard, but he's got, he averages just 0.2 yards more per game than Goddard does.
Well, that's easy. Don't throw it to him either.
Okay. All right. You should be a coach.
He's got over 4,100 receiving yards in his career coming in, 43 career touchdowns. He's a touchdown machine. 16 as a freshman, 11 as a sophomore, and 16 so far this year. Bison fans want that number to remain at 16. He had 6 catches for 108 yards and that big touchdown against the Bison. That was the game winner. And people have tried to take these guys away. If you take the wide receivers away, like South Dakota did, they're the only team that took the wide receiver and the tight end away from South Dakota State. And then South Dakota State ran for 400 yards against them. So you can take them away, but you're going to pay on the back end. Somehow you have to mix the two.
It will be so much fun to see Code Green fired up, motivated to go against this offense, clicking on all cylinders at this point. Though, can't really say they're clicking on all cylinders. They put up 10 points last week against Villanova.
And that's where the crowd can make a difference. That's where Bison Nation can make a difference. It has not been as loud as it has been previous years. Anyone will tell you that. Today, they have a chance to be loud. It hasn't been loud like it's been loud in a couple years. Today they have a chance, and they can make a difference.
Break the decibel record. That's what
they can make a difference today.
A little cold never stopped the Bison faithful from getting out and supporting their team, as we've seen, or at least supporting the tailgate effort. Let's go back to the Dome parking lot and check in with Mike Morkin. Does he have a hat? Mike, do you have a hat?
All right, thanks, guys. You talk about hardy Bison football fans. Take a look at this bunch. Look at that. All right, your name is Whitey, I'm told, and you're the spokesperson for this group. Tell me about him.
Well, I'm not responsible for them, but that's all I can say.
Okay.
And who would be?
And this is a group of friends, family?
Yeah, from Tulna and Larimore. We're the Four Quarters Tailgating is our unofficial name of our group. We're here every week, and we have a heck of a good time.
And 6 below 0 isn't a problem.
Oh, no. I wish it would be a little colder. I think it's kind of warm.
You do. Okay.
My counterpart
Chase
says
those rabbits away.
yes.
And you're okay?
Oh, I'm fine with this. This is lovely weather. Why go south?
Fewer folks out here, but the hardiest have survived, right?
Yeah.
All right. Do you like the Bison's chance today?
By about 17, yeah.
17 points, which would be far higher than the temperature is right now. All right, everybody.
17 below would be perfect.
Well, thanks for being out here now chatting. All right. And you're all dismissed. You can go back inside now.
See the magic of television. They all went back inside. They all look like they'd been outside tailgating, but I don't think they were. I think they were just outside for that little bit, that minute-long bit, and then they're
And I think
back inside.
if you let the rest of the country just look, I mean, that's impressive enough.
Be out
You
there
don't
at
have to-
-6 for no coat on. Yeah.
You don't have to be out there for 2 minutes to prove you're tough. You're out there for 30 seconds. The rest of the country is like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Bison Nation, they are a tough group.
Good for you.
Bison Nation is. Speaking of a tough group, we've got a couple former players that are some tough guys that we will hear from next. We're talking Levon Perry, Tony Satter. We're going to break down the Jacks in our Proceed Player Roundtable right after this on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Welcome back to the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. We are pleased to start our Proceed Player Roundtable and pleased to be joined this week by Levon Perry and Tony Satter. Of course, Ryan Gellner, LT, who was on the call this year for the Bison Football broadcast. Guys, we are now into the quarterfinals of the playoffs. Can we get your thoughts on the Bison football team? We'll start with you, Levon, of what you've seen this year.
They're good. They're a young group, so I think at the beginning of the season they had to take some, not actual L's, but some L's within themselves to kind of learn and realize that it's a game of football and it's not high school, it's not where you came from, because we're getting guys now that they're coming from, they're the top guy at their high schools, coming in to a college where nobody cares, and coming into a town where nobody cares. You got to show up and you got to actually play. And so I think they're starting to grow into it, and they've had some unfortunate injuries, and so they're overcoming that. People are stepping up, and they're still playing.
Tony, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think a lot with Levi, some young kids playing. We don't, not a lot of seniors, some tough injuries. But I've noticed, you can see the growth through the year. The offensive line is, especially late, has really gelled. You can see some of the younger guys that have been in important roles really start to assert themselves. I think of Robbie Grimsley. Grimsley is really starting to play well. Ilias. There's a lot of names, but the team, I think, had to take a little step back when those injuries happened. I think the last couple of weeks, I've noticed the D line. Some of those younger guys have been getting 10 more reps maybe than they used to since Tangway's injury, and now they're kind of getting used to that. And I think they're coming together at the right time, and I think they're playing some of their better football. And I think, Easton is really starting to click. It sounds like he had a back thing going on that nobody really knew about, and that's a big deal for a quarterback. I think the season progression has been good.
Levon, you talked about losses, and is a loss? I mean, we can look at it now and say, yeah, that's a good thing. But as a player, when you lose a game, can that be a good thing at a certain time in the season?
Well, no, it sucks. It's a loss on the record. It's a blemish. You don't want it. And talk about loss, because I remember it was our senior year. We won our first game, but if you ask anybody in the locker room, we lost because they shouldn't have got what they did. You know what I'm saying? You can win a game, you could physically beat them down, but if they rush for 200 yards, but they still don't score anything, they still rush for 200 yards. And so it's something you got to fix, and it's something our coaches have always been good at, and our players have always been good at, because nobody wants to lose. Nobody comes into any game and wants to lose, and so they're good at showing up and actually playing. But last time they played SDSU, they were tired of losing, apparently, and they wanted to show up and win. So now that they got their eye out their mouth, and they can go out there and whoop them.
Yeah, there's nothing more for incentive, though, than to have to take a loss. There's no doubt about that. And you get an opportunity to play the team that beat you again in a game that's going to propel the winner into the semifinals. There is not a bigger motivation in the world than to be in the position the Bison are in this weekend.
I think there's something to be said about the home field advantage that the Bison have. Obviously, they're undefeated at the Fargo Dome in the playoffs. But there's something to be said about a team that comes into the Fargo Dome for the second time after picking up a win in the regular season. We're going to see a very motivated Bison group. We saw it last year with Montana, took the regular season loss. Granted, that was at Montana, but then Montana comes in here, and it was a completely different football game from the opening game of the season to the playoff game.
Yeah, that was if you look at that game, that scenario, Montana game 1, we didn't know what that offense really was. And we had a supremely young backside defense, and you could see their growth through the year too. So I think the main thing is that our coaching staff does a great job of developing kids and their growth. You can see it through the games. You can see through you can pick out individuals. You can see it, and so that is one thing which is nice. You could, like earlier in the year, basically what you were talking about, we escaped some of those games, and that's what great programs do, though. When you don't play your best, but you still win. And even though we had that loss to South Dakota State earlier, there was, we'll talk about that game obviously later, but there were some anomalies in that game, obviously.
There certainly was. Tarrant Christian, I mean, they ran the football, like you said. We'll get to that in a little bit, but they did show a little bit of a different offense.
Speaking of different, how much, you guys both played in the playoffs, how much do you think the Bison change going from this game, a couple months ago to the game today?
I think it's tunnel vision. We go one game at a time because we got 2 goals at the beginning of the season, win the conference, then win the title.
Check.
Yeah, and so won the conference, so the only thing left to win the title. And if you lose on Saturday, obviously it's not going to happen.
I don't see it. I think it depends on your perspective, and how sharp your eye is, and how much you pay attention. I don't think the average fan's going to go look, oh my God, they're doing some things they haven't done or didn't do the first game. I don't think it'll be noticeable to most, but there will be some wrinkles. There will be some things, especially defensively, they're going to be different. But it's not going to be wholesale changes. There's still Tampa 2 defense. We're still a West Coast, multiple formation offense, and that's what we're going to do. And but we're going to try to do it better than we did the first time.
We'll get to this week's game in just a moment, but the history between these two schools.
Oh boy,
there's a smile.
Oh boy, look at him smile.
I don't know if you've been talking to some of these guys lately, but they say. We talked with Brad Ambrosius earlier in the week. He said there is no love between these two schools. There is only hate. Did you start that? Was that you?
No.
Maybe a South Dakota State offensive lineman started.
I mean, Ambrosius put it probably the most PG way you could put it. But no, there's no. Players don't like the coaches. After everything that happened with me, the coach tried to talk to me. I don't want to talk to him. Players try to talk to me, apologize for something. There's nothing. My personal experience, they do unnecessary stuff that in the game of football shouldn't be around. And you can play however you want to play it, but at the end of the day, when we win and they lose, it's the only thing that really matters. And the fact that hopefully we can walk off with all of our players healthy, but playing them, you never know. So you just got to be ready.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. I appreciate your candor and your willingness to not get too heated up about it. We're going to step aside. We've got more with these guys coming up here on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show and the Proceed Player Roundtable. Welcome back to the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. We are starting our Proceed Player Roundtable, kind of continuing, I guess is the way to say it. If you need seed, think Proceed. Levon Perry, Tony Satter here with us as we get set for the Bison and the Jacks round two. Round two, I'm not sure that we'd ever see it. Of course, the Jacks, they've never made the quarterfinals in the FCS playoffs before, so we're in uncharted territory, even though we've seen these two teams play each other now 5 times in the last 3 years. The first game, it was SDSU walking out with the Dakota marker. I'm sure as you guys, you played in Dakota marker games, seeing them walk off with that rock, not so much fun.
Doesn't affect me that much now, but as a player, seeing that other team run across the field and take it from you, yeah, it sucks. That's a big eye opener, and I'm guessing they didn't have any nice, hey guys, you tried real hard speeches. And knowing Coach Kramer like I know him, I'm sure they didn't have a easy week of lifting. So I'm guessing they learned their lesson, and I'm not completely sure. Are they playing for the Rock this time?
They're not. The Rock will not be up for grabs.
So it's just go home if you lose.
They're playing for something a little bit more. It's a national championship trophy, not the Rock.
Right. I thought the Jackrabbits did a couple of interesting things in the first time around that you didn't see before and you haven't really seen much since. I think one of them, of course, is quarterback run. We saw what Christian did. But the other one I thought was more of a subtle thing, what Tony was talking about last segment. The Jacks blitz pressure came from the tight end side, from the strong side. And that was something the Bison hadn't seen before, and they haven't really done it since. So those are some of those little wrinkles, I think, that Tony was kind of hitting on earlier, that these teams save a little bit of those things for each other, just those subtle little things that can switch a game.
And that's, you game plan for a team each week. It's different, and I think obviously they saw something there, and it worked for them. And then as far as the quarterback run, I think definitely their coaching staff felt like, well, you're guessing at this point, but they had to be thinking, well, they're going to try to take away the tight end and the receiver, and that's going to probably open up some things for Christian. And I think our coaches were nervous about the quarterback run because they'd never shown it, and we knew the kid could run. Mm-hmm. He's an athletic kid, so and it happened. And at that point, our game plan, is kind of it's hard to adjust to that. It really is on the fly.
Well, the Bison wanted to heading into that game wanted to get some hits, if you will, just some pressure on Goddard, the tight end that Tony's talking about. And if you look back, they didn't do a very good job of that. No. So that could be one thing to watch in today's game, just to see how they handle that physically, especially when he's engaged, when he's close to the line. I mean, I think the Bison have to hit him.
And I think the other thing too, and I was talking to my buddies pregame before the first game, and I said, "Guy, this would be a great game for DeLuca, because I think he'd make a big difference in this game." Huge. Nothing against Matt Plank, but Nick DeLuca is Nick DeLuca. And he covers up some stuff, and he does something. He's a smart football player. I thought in my mind, I go, this would be a great game for DeLuca. Missing him might be a big deal for this. And I don't know. I didn't want. And I think it was. I think it was. And Matt was kind of still getting his feet wet too.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long. He'd been starting. So, he's a heck of a football player. But let's not kid ourselves. DeLuca is one of the best linebackers in the country, period.
The only team really to take away Goddard and Weineke is South Dakota when they played South Dakota State. But then South Dakota State just ran for 400, almost 500 yards against them. Yeah. So Levon, as a defensive player, if you take away 2 guys, they're going to try to run on you because you don't have a lot of guys in the box. If you stack the box, they can throw all over you. What do you do?
your D lineman.
If you're coaching this week, what do you do?
Your D linemen have to have a game. They got to get pressure with 4. They got to, because if you get pressure with 4, you can cover those tight ends, that wide receiver. And if you smack the quarterback gets uncomfortable. So he doesn't feel okay staying in the pocket, thinking he has time, because he doesn't. And so you keep contained, you get pressure with 4, you should be fine. You should be fine because the other guys can step up because they can help each other because they don't need somebody dropping back.
Can they get pressure with 4?
That's the $1 million question. Yeah, I'm hoping they can, because the guys on the line know if they lose, they're going home. That's the end of the season.
That's well said.
They're the team. I hate to say it, but they're the team who they didn't go the distance. Which, if they do, it should be celebrated, because if you go any year, it should be celebrated. But now, we started a tradition now where if we don't make it, now they're a terrible team, which they are. They're still a great team. But if they don't make it, then, they're always going to be that team who didn't make it. Nobody wants to be that team.
I think what's interesting about the first time that these two teams met, South Dakota State sold out for that win. They sold out. I mean, they were going for it on 4th down, 4th and goal. They were going for it instead of kicking field goals. It was a 19-17 game, but it could have very easily been a much more lopsided South Dakota State score. NDSU did a good job of keeping in there and keeping with them with those 4th down plays and stopping them on those 4th down plays. Do you think that that's going to be something that, I don't know that Stiegelmeier doesn't kick the ball the next time that they're in the
I think Stig's taking points if he can.
I think so, too.
I don't think he's going to roll the dice that hard this time.
It was very interesting to see that play calling, and you can't tell me that they didn't want that Dakota marker. They wanted that win this year in the Fargo Dome.
Absolutely, and I think, the fact that they didn't punt at all the whole game, this kind of tells you what their mindset was coming in. If we lose this game, big deal, but we're going to win, and here's what we need to do, and we're going to run the quarterback. We're not going to punt. We're going to go, because what's the big deal for us? What's our mantra? Get off the field on 3rd down. Well, we did a lot.
Yeah.
But guess what? They went for it anyway, and they made some of those. And that's why time of possession was kind of weird compared to normal. They had tons of yardage, and South Dakota State people are talking about, well, we should have scored this touchdown and we're on the 1 yard line. Hold up now. We do have a good red zone defense too.
Yes.
So it's not like we're going to let you score. So there was some of that too. So this game it's very intriguing. The chess match that's going to happen on Saturday for sure.
But football, as we all know, is the power of the turnover. Look at where the Bison were in that first matchup and what was happening until the fumble. And then what happened on the NDSU's offensive side after that. You flipped the switch. They were moving the ball, scored the touchdown in the 3rd quarter, driving once again, the fumble. The Bison did nothing on offense after that.
Yeah, it was 17-3 at that point. We were controlling the ball, and unfortunate, fumbles happen. I should know. They happen, and it's an unfortunate thing, but it's part of the game. That's just saying maybe one of their kids made a play and poked one out. So.
Yeah, it will be an interesting game. We're sticking around for the rest of this show. You guys won't be here for the rest of the show. So let's get your thoughts on today's game, what you think is going to happen. You don't have to give me a score prediction, but you got to tell me something.
I think they'll fill each other out for a while. It'll be a low-scoring game until the second half. I'm thinking 3rd quarter. I'm thinking NDSU might slip up and give them one touchdown, and then I think the offense is clicking for NDSU the whole time. I think they had that bye week. They've been planning for this. They've been watching the games. Coaches know what they're doing. Kramer knows what he's doing. I think they're ready for this game.
And Easton threw 3 touchdowns last week. That helps.
Yeah, I think the offensive line is playing better. I mean, not that they weren't playing good before. I mean, they're really stepped up their game. Easton looks better. I mean, you can just tell by the flight of his ball. He obviously we found out that he had some issues there, but I think it's going to be a feel him out process early because they're going to have to adjust to the adjustments kind of thing. So there won't be anything crazy unless something to miss tackle or whatever, blown assignment or whatever it may be. But I think it's going to be close to that. No score prediction, of course, but it's if I had the bet on it, I guess I'd take the Bison. But it's going to be a good one.
Well, we saw the importance of quarterback run in the first game. That was for South Dakota State's side. I think quarterback run is going to be huge for North Dakota State in this one. The Bison are going to do some things, maybe look for some option type of stuff, but I think Easton Stick in the run game is going to be very, very important. And the other thing, too, is I think the Bison feel that they can pick on the corners a little bit through the air, so maybe look for RJ to try to get some stuff, beat somebody outside. But I think first and foremost, I think Stick will be heavily involved in quarterback run.
Yeah, and I think it'd be nice to get him moving, some little more boot stuff, and get the tight ends involved and some of the running backs involved in pass play, because their D line's good. They blitz here and there. You know, they got some good blitzers. You know, blitzing's one thing, but some guys aren't good at blitzing. They have a couple of kids that are good blitzers, and so I think it's going to be good to get Easton moving, and you know, hopefully, you know, their game plan's gonna be great. I'm sure. I talked to Paul Stick last night at the basketball game. He's still working, and they're working. I tell you what, every stone will be unturned.
More. I think you're going to see a little bit more of that delta, that three-back thing, and some variations off of that. The Bison have put in more plays, some extended type of plays out of that formation this week that the Jacks haven't seen much of.
All right, that is our Proceed Player Roundtable. If you need seed, think Proceed. Want to thank Levon Perry, Tony Satter, and LT for joining us. More of the pregame show right after this. All right, let's take a look now at who is playing and who is not in our Sanford Sports Medicine and Orthopedics injury reports. Two guys listed this week. Pierre G. Tucker with the knee issue. He injured at South Dakota. He missed last game against San Diego, and they're expecting him to go. We've gotten word that he is in full pads. We're not sure what his availability is, but they're expecting him to be available today. Darius Shepard missed last game with a hamstring injury. That kind of popped up right before the San Diego game. We're not exactly sure what Shep's prognosis is, but he is in full pads. He is in full pads, and he should be ready to go. Mum was the word around injuries this week for the obvious and less obvious reasons as we get closer and closer to a national championship game. So they're not going to say as much about who is hurt and what is hurting them. Let's go out to Beth Lewis, standing by with Dr. Bruce Pyatt with this injury report.
Thanks, guys. Here for our Sanford Orthopedic Sports Medicine Injury Report, Dr. Pyatt joining us to talk about hamstrings and how you help the players recover from those and prevent those.
Yeah, what a common injury. I mean, I think probably every athlete out here today will have experienced that at some point during their playing career. And even those of us just doing everyday things sometimes have those events occur as well. But what generally is occurring is the hamstring is a group of muscles in the back of the thigh that allow you to be able to bend the knee up as well as to extend your hip back. And what's happening is that there's some event that occurs that overloads it in what we call an eccentric way, which means that it's already got a significant load on it, and then you get an excessive stretch to it, and that just is too much for the muscle to bear, and something has to give. Now, fortunately, what usually gives is the muscle itself. And the reason I say fortunately is that generally if it's that part of the anatomy that's injured, we don't usually have to talk about surgery. It's really when it's more where the muscle attaches to bone through the tendon. If it tears away from the bone, then we do often have to talk about surgery for it. But the more common injury is that muscle belly injury. So initially what we're going to do is let the body have a chance to start the healing process. So we'll let it rest, we'll ice it, we'll do some things to kind of maintain flexibility. And then as they come back, we're going to do a lot of work at really kind of training that eccentric load again. So we're going to be doing a lot of stretching as they're strengthening, and as well as they come back, we're going to make sure that they've done the right things to prevent it, which means they're going to keep it warm, going to keep it loose throughout the event. And always kind of a key thing for us in these events is the guys that have those injuries when they go in at halftime, we really try to keep on them to keep moving, keep limber, because they can really tighten up and affect them in the second half of a game.
Thanks so much, Dr. Pyatt, for sharing with us about hamstrings a little bit. That's another Sanford Orthopedic Sports Medicine Injury Report.
All right, thank you very much, Beth, and thank you to Dr. Pyatt as well. We're going to step aside. We come back, we're going to hear from Coach Kleiman. We're going to break this one down, get you into our heavy lifting player and the keys to the game. That's all still to come here as we are moments away from football here on the pregame show.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Welcome back. Just over 6 minutes away from NDSU, SDSU Round 2 in 2016. Let's go to the Dome and check in with Beth Houle, who has caught up with Bison head coach Chris Kleiman before his team takes the field. Beth.
Thanks, guys. Joined by Coach Kleiman. Coach, it's been a long week, I'm sure. Are you guys ready? How was the preparation this week?
Preparation was really good this week. We were able to look at a lot of film of the last time we played them. Obviously, they're going to make adjustments. We're going to make adjustments. And that's kind of what we talked to the guys about. We have to play with great technique. We have to eliminate mental errors. And then we have to make plays. And that's something we didn't do the first time, but fortunately, we get another opportunity.
Last time there was so much made of the unknown from them. How much more can you expect that to be the game plan this week?
Well, I think we are what we are now, both sides, them and us. It's just still who's going to make those adjustments that the other team's got to counter. And then, time of possession is going to be so critical, so you're allowed to make some of those adjustments on the sideline, and that's something we've focused on this week.
Pierre G. Tucker, Darius Shepard, both out last week. What's their status for this week?
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to warm both of them up, and we'll make a game-time decision.
How important is it to play that kind of stuff in a game like this close to your chest?
Well, for those guys, it truly is a game-time decision, but with us having to only be able to dress 60, you don't want to waste any bodies either, so we'll have 62 guys out there, and then at the end of pregame, we'll have to make some decisions.
Best of luck today, Coach. Thanks so much for joining us, guys.
All right, thank you, Beth. This guy is itching so hard to get up to the Fargo Dome. It's hilarious. We still have a few more things we got to talk about, and then we'll excuse you.
Let's do it then.
All right, let's do it. Let's get up to our Bobcat heavy lifting player, and this week you have selected Easton Stick. And for obvious reasons, I think Easton Stick is the player, but I have sustained the drives. I think that's a big thing. The Bison were unable to sustain drives in the fourth quarter against SDSU in the last time, limit the mistakes and make plays. He was pretty good limiting the mistakes the first time these two teams met. He's been pretty good at limiting mistakes all year, let's be honest. And then it just comes down to making plays.
Well, think about this. His only career loss as a starter is against South Dakota State. He accounted for 307 yards of total offense and 3 touchdowns last week. He went through an ugly stretch in the middle of the season, a 4-game stretch in which his completion percentage hovered right around 50%. He threw just 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in those 4 games. Since then, though, in his last 2 games, he's been 60%, thrown 3 touchdowns in each of those games. He's playing his best football of the season. He's confident. NDSU has to ride him, his arms and his leg today. His arm and his leg today.
No, he could throw it with both arms. He's made a catch as well this year. And he's got a punt, so we'll see. He does it all. He does it all. Easton Stick, our Bobcat heavy lifting player of the game today, and he will be very, very, very important. Let's get to our keys to today's game, brought to you by Nodak Mutual Insurance. And very simply, we'll start with one, and that is adjust.
NDSU did not do a good job of adjusting the first time around. There will be new wrinkles added. You have to be able to adjust to those wrinkles, and then you have to be able to execute your adjustments. That's where NDSU failed the first time. I'd be surprised if they don't execute their adjustments this time.
Yeah, I think about it, the chess match is what we heard all week. It'll be a chess match between these two teams, these two coaching staffs, and these players that'll be out there. Number 2, win on third down.
And you have to do it both ways. The Bison were 7 of 13 the last time they played SDSU on third downs. They've got to win a few more downs on offense, and then on defense, maybe just as importantly, they've got to win on third down defensively. That's where Taryn Christian made a living against them on third down. He was able to tuck and run. South Dakota State does not want to turn the ball over. So you don't throw it into questionable coverage on third down. You run it. That's what they did successful last time. NDSU has to win on third down.
And we heard it a little bit in our player roundtable with Tony Satter and Levon Perry. SDSU did not punt at all last game. So that means that this third down, and we're expecting them to not have that same mindset coming into this playoff game.
Nope.
So if you get that win on third down, then odds are you are going to get the football back on a punt or a change of possession on fourth down. Time of possession.
Yeah, and think about it this way. Time of possession, it becomes a big deal because when NDSU's offense has the ball, when they're eating up time of possession, obviously it's big in so many ways, but think about it this way. When NDSU has the ball offensively, their defense is adjusting on the sideline. That's where time of possession comes into big-time playmaking in the playoffs because your defense has time to adjust and change things. You go 3 and out, The defense didn't get a chance to even talk on the sideline. That's, to me, where time of possession is such a difference in games like this. Let the defense adjust while your offense is out there getting time off the clock, hopefully scoring points.
There's two things that you said that you wanted to watch in this game today, and it was Greg Menard and Dallas Goedert.
Greg Menard played so well last year against South Dakota State. Game 1 in October, did not play his best football game. I want to watch that. And to me, South Dakota State's offense runs through Goedert, the tight end. If he's open down the middle, I'm anxious to see if they're doing things like chipping him on every play, if they're putting a guy on him, singling him up, or if they're going to let him run down the middle of the field, which I don't think is going to happen. Watch where 86 is on the football field, because so many things run around him. Those are the two things I'm watching.
And there's something that's happened over the last course of overnight. This game, the line on Vegas, this game has changed from 6 points to about 16 points. There's something going on. We don't know what it is. Vegas knows something. But NDSU went from a 6-point favorite to a 16-point favorite.
Overnight. That is unheard of. Something's going on.
Something's going on. That's it for the pregame show. Game is on ESPN. If the Bison win, we'll see you here next week. Thanks for joining us.